Today we're going to be breaking down the debate of the FIT21 bill. This is important because this all happens prior to the vote. We'll break it all down for you. We've got some clips. You don't want to miss it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Let's get into it today. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is Tangem. Self-custody right now at these times is very important, and that is getting your tokens off of exchanges and into your own custody. You can do that through self-custody with Tangem. Of course, one of the most secure wallets out there. One thing I like about this is the ease of use. So if you're brand new to self-custody, this is the tool for you. It's going to give you a 3-card set. It works in tandem with your phone, and a great app gives you what I think is peace of mind. And it's a great tool to get started with on self-custody. Just hit Get Tangem, get the 3-card set, get a discount from us. It does help the channel. Let's get into a few points today, and I want to go over to this first one. I'm going to highlight something here. This was in a tweet that was a letter that came in from Gary Gensler. Let me zoom in on something that was drawn to our attention right here in this last paragraph from that. I think it's the second page on this one, if you guys are catching this, but out there. But it says right here, non-accredited investors would be allowed to purchase crypto assets worth up to 10% of their net worth or annual income before the issuer would be required to provide any disclosure. That's a lot of risk for ordinary investors without any disclosure. Basically, what this boils down to is Mr. Gensler, again, trying to keep the little guy down, not letting them in, and letting basically big money front run the typical traders. This is the problem that has always been out there in these kind of markets. And I think the difference here is that the risk markets are, I believe, that our audience and most of you people that are probably watching our show right now already do your research. You understand these kind of risks and you're willing to take a look at these because of the upside for all of these. Now, this letter did come in, potential a little bit noteworthy here is that Gensler did not specify whether this was a statement that was his personal or official capacity or whether it represents the actual view of the SEC. So very intriguing that this got out there. Of course, maybe he's on a bit of an island. I will see. I think I would agree that things are looking a little bit different. I've talked about this over the past week or so, is that he's kind of playing a little bit of chess right now. I want to get into some of the clips. These are the debates that are happening on the House floor right now, and it is spicy. Let's start with Maxine.
But this is perhaps the worst, most harmful deregulatory proposal I have seen in a long time. Giving this industry a free pass to avoid most or all regulations about crypto fraud, human traffickers and drug traffickers, fentanyl, and young women and girls being trafficked, I urge you to remember that the preferred currency of these criminals is crypto.
Yeah, actually the preferred currency throughout numerous reports is fiat, has been for quite some time, Maxine. But she continues to place her position, and I think there's some, a little bit of action going on right here. I want to go into Mr. French Hill's response in his intro. Listen in.
We incorporated a significant amount of feedback from the agencies, including the Securities and Exchange Commission, as well as members of Congress and market participants, all during the past 14 months.
I'll give you one example. Every one of which I'm aware acknowledges that Bitcoin is not a security and it is not subject to SEC regulation. Clearly, the Commodities Exchange Act of 1922 and the Securities Exchange Act of 1934 did not spell out exactly when is a digital asset a security and when is it not. And so that has created a gray area, and unfortunately in that gray area, the SEC has rushed in with quite aggressive and quite expansive regulatory actions. We are the only G10 country that has not addressed these issues, and now is the time for us to act.
So one thing he did hit on, only G10 country not supporting this. Of course, we've already seen the actions of Mika, and I think this is now in a very intriguing place. Now, recent data coming in front right now as things are being discussed is we're getting news from the House floor that there is overwhelming bipartisan support of this. So far, things are looking pretty good. I want to get into a couple more clips here. This next clip goes into the best and oldest argument out there, I think. Listen in.
How are we positioning ourselves to not be facing that same type of crisis in FTX again?
For instance, we know that the foundational problem with FTX was the commingling of customer funds with their own. That kind of nonsense would not be allowed under FIT21. The FTX debacle happened under this current regulatory environment.
Thank you very much. To your question, let's see, Major Christopher both now, and have intentionally chosen not to register. Not to register. They've broken the law already with the SEC. One of the things they want this bill to do, in addition to everything else it's doing, is to make sure that they're not held accountable for the laws they have already broken. This is the SEC at work, and the efforts we must support. The FEC really needs even more staff to deal with the criminal fraud of these crypto companies.
And I'm grateful that they caught the people and that they've been punished, but it seems like there could have been some anticipatory action. But I'd be interested in Mr. Hill's response.
FTX did have a U.S. derivative subsidiary here in America, and guess what? It was regulated by the CFTC, and guess what? It was the only part of FTX that did not fail.
So he is exactly right. Of course, Maxine, again, not necessarily losing her place, but yeah, losing her place and not really understanding I think the overall position of where the market is, what happened during the FTX debacle, and why regulation, or the lack thereof, was really the culprit here. And all of this happened under the guise of the current SEC, under the guise of the current Congress. All of that has been happening under that. And that's simply because there's been no regulatory framework. And that is what FIT21 starts to fix. I want to go into another clip here. That was crazy about Maxine Waters. And this is about Maxine talking about consumer protection. This is where it gets interesting. Take a look.
Doesn't the investment contract asset language only apply to digital assets? No, would allow any assets that meet this definition to exist in a regulatory void.
That's not correct. Let me read it to you, ranking member. So if it's a security, it's not covered. There is no gap. You're either security or you're a digital representation of value.
It rips them off.
I would beg to differ on
dream.
that. I would beg to differ that I think that this actually adds to the protection of consumers.
All right, so as you can see, this adds to the protection of consumers. Right now, the consumers really have no protection because the SEC is out there kind of just gun shooting and going after really no regulatory alignment. Just in fact, let's go beat up companies and push them out of the business, push them off seas or off shore. And of course, this is what we've seen in terms of MiCA all taking place. So Maxine, again, losing in terms of the consumer protection argument. Remember, this is the debate that's happening today. All of this is going on. We'll get the vote probably after hours tonight. We will do a full video for you guys on the FIT21 vote. This is an important one. This is pretty much a landmark day in the future of crypto. I want to go to our next clip, which is going into the whole idea of the come in and register theory that is truly, I believe, a wives' tale, because there's no real way to get that done. But listen in.
We have these crypto companies who have refused to register. They're operating against the law.
Is there currently any way for a digital asset commodity company to currently register with either the SEC or the CFTC?
No.
No. Do we or do we not create an opportunity and, in fact, a requirement for those registries to take place?
Yes, we do. This bill is directly responsive to President Biden's call in his executive order for a regulatory gap being closed.
This is a security, this is a commodity, this is a commodity, this is, it wouldn't be such a problem. But this is a comprehensive piece of legislation that undermines the authority of the SEC that has been developed, working, and protecting us as a cop on the block for 90 years. And so I disagree that this is a simple bill that just says this is a commodity and this is a security.
Coinbase, that company went to the SEC and filed an S-1, which is a registration statement to go public. And yet they've been under constant scrutiny by the SEC, despite their best efforts time and time again to go in and register. So I believe part of this bill is to bring clarity to that registration. The XRP case, Ripple, which was litigated in federal court, came back and created more confusion, actually, in our markets by protecting institutional investors and not protecting retail.
Right. So these clips, guys, sometimes our guys just go a little bit overboard, but hey, they're right. And I think, French Hill is pretty much in a position where he's trying to say, listen, this has been the way it is for a long time. There's no way to register this. This clearly outlines all of, listen, guys, this is just about how politics works. And this is the problem that we have right now. So you can see it happening in front of your very eyes right here. I was surprised they let this debate be filmed because there was a lot of interesting takes on this. Let's get into the Memecoin frenzy because this is another debate topic that was very heated, and they actually talked about Dogecoin. So don't get freaked out about it, but listen into this one.
And I'm going to pick Dogecoin. It's a meme coin. Is this really something that should be registered or regulated when it started out as a joke?
I mean, our system of market regulation, sir, doesn't have government determine the merit of a product.
I don't necessarily disagree with what you're doing, other than I think it may lend more credibility to meme coin.
They're called penny stocks. Does that mean the whole stock market is not worthy of regulation, oversight, and participation? The answer is no. I don't recommend someone consider Dogecoin.
It reached a value of $85 billion. And
I understand
think it's
that.
worth $23 billion.
There's speculation in this
It'd be a pretty
market.
good-sized mining company.
I understand.
All right, so there is speculation, of course. I think the clarity is there, and there is framework already out there within the open securities market in penny stocks that kind of really frame up the same exact style. And this is the thing that they're, of course, combating against. I think this will potentially say, if FIT21 gets passed, which I believe it will, we could see a lot of different angles on meme coins coming in. So a lot of frenzy potential moving in. I want to go to another clip here because this is kind of interesting. They're talking about CBDC and stablecoins and potential technology that applies to it. Listen in.
And finally, I would say something we haven't talked about today. They also, in that Biden executive order, called for a legislated solution on payment stablecoins. Mm-hmm.
And I think we could have gotten one. I think we should have pursued that. I think we could have gotten to it. But instead, here we come up with market structure, which is so different. We needed to get started with crypto. Stablecoin would have been the way to do it. Let me pivot to talk about Mr. Emmer's bill, H.R. 5403. This bill prohibits the issuance of any central bank digital currency, or CBDC, by the Federal Reserve. That the work that is being done by the feds will lead us into CBDCs that will be designed in a way that offer cash-like privacy, such as using zero-knowledge proofs, encryption, and other design features where a payment validator processes and approves transactions but does not learn the identities involved in the payments without the permission of the parties.
All right, so it's nice that Maxine is actually supporting crypto there, because if you look at the history of zero-knowledge proofs right here, I'm going to just point out zero-knowledge proofs, ZKMs and zero-knowledge proofs in general were conceived in 1985 by none other than Silvio Macaulay. Now, Silvio Macaulay, as you guys probably know, is one of the guys who started Algorand, Algorand being one of the top 50 crypto assets out there. So the fact that they're going in this direction, again, this is just about research. I understand that. But the point is they're debating this now. We're starting to see overwhelming support. This has pretty much come out of nowhere. So definitely going to be a very big deal to watch for sure. All right, so this is going on right now. Of course, all the debate is happening. They'll go to actually vote on this. Looks like we're leaning in on bipartisan, overwhelming bipartisan support. And if that does happen, even if it doesn't, I think if we just win, the position that we're going to be in right now is whether or not the administration will support this bill. Now, if you look at this statement in from the White House right here, the administration, Elizabeth Warren, opposes the passage of 4763, which would affect the regulatory structure for the digital assets of the United States. They do talk about the fact that there needs to be a framework of digital assets. Everybody totally agrees with that. FIT21 is as close as we've seen. This is one I think that is going to go through, and what they're saying here is they are opposing it, but they're not saying that they won't veto it, or will veto it. So this is the thing. I think they're in a position where they're just trying to put out a statement right now. I don't think they're going to veto this if this goes through, even with just one vote as a win. We'll see how it goes tonight. We'll get you guys a full coverage of the actual resolution and how this plays out, because this is going to have a huge effect on the market. Make sure and jump in on the Diamond Circle if you're not in there right now. It's another great place to get some additional content from us. And of course, follow me on X @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.